The Portal is actually good. Okay, hear me out. I ragged on this thing a bit when it was announced and I scoffed at the price tag, but you know what? There was something about it that I just couldn't quite put my finger on. And then I saw it. This weird thing was sitting under the glass at the local game store. No box, no cables, just a gently used Portal staring out at me like a forgotten puppy at the pound. Everyone needs love. And everyone has something to offer, like this TurboGrafx Express from like 1992 or something. It still works. Or the PlayStation TV that allows you to play Vita games on your TV, for whatever reason. My point is, I have an open heart for electronic oddities, especially ones in the realm of video games. So when I stare deep into the thumbsticks on this hunk of plastic, I see myself. Because the screen wasn't on and it's kind of shiny. My point is, how could I feel good about making fun of this thing if I hadn't even tried it for myself, right? And finding it used? Well, that was the rationalizing icing on the cake. Suddenly, I could bring this thing home without even feeling guilty, or even financially irresponsible. This thing came home with me, and I put it to the test. Now, I don't know who this thing was made for, but I assume it was made for gamers with non-gaming spouses and 4-year-olds at home who like to hog the TV watching other kids playing with toys on YouTube. As it turns out, I'm familiar with this target market because I am the target market. It's me. It's also for people who own a PS5 since the device only streams games from your console. It doesn't actually run any games from the device itself, and it doesn't run any apps. Now, if I told you it's a handheld that doesn't play Netflix and doesn't really have any processing power of its own, you might say, hey, I already own a Switch. But here's the kicker. It puts your PlayStation 5 games in your hand. Helldivers 2, Ragnarok, Spidey, you name it. If you have it on your PlayStation, you have it in your hands. But there are some limitations, and can streaming your game actually live up to the hefty price tag? I haven't really done a hardware review before, but I'm pretty sure this is where I should show you an unboxing. Like I said, I got this used and it didn't come with anything, not even a charging cable. But in case you're curious, a new one would come in a box, and to actually use the device, you must first take it out of the box, like this. Now I'm going to leave this on screen for a moment because you probably need a moment to stop laughing at this product design. I like to think somewhere somebody took a hacksaw to a DualSense PS5 controller and tried to glue it to the sides of a Nintendo Switch to replace the Joy-Cons like an idiot. And now they're consulting with lawyers about idea theft because that's exactly what Sony seems to have copied with this thing. But seriously, if you're still laughing, just pause it or whatever because I gotta keep going. But here's the thing. It feels good. It feels like holding a PS5 remote with the haptics and everything. It's heavier than a Switch or a Steam Deck, weighing in at about 2.5 pounds or a kilogram, but the only time I noticed that was when I was lying on my back. You would not want to doze off with this thing hovering over your nose. The sticks feel a little looser than a regular PS5 controller, but then again, I have no idea how this thing was treated by the previous owner. All I know is I actually prefer the way this feels over the regular controller, and that's saying a lot because I feel like the DualSense is really the only challenger to the 360 as my favorite controller of all time. What's your favorite controller? Let me know in the comments, unless you're gonna say GameCube or Nintendo 64. We don't need any of that. Let me back up a second. It's tempting to compare this thing to a Switch or a Steam Deck, but that's apples and oranges. This thing is not a handheld console. It's basically a streaming device with a kick-ass controller. A better comparison would be the backbone. This thing fits around your phone so you can use the PlayStation Remote Play app, among other things. It's a great product at about half the price, but it does have some of the same limitations as the Portal. So let's dig in and see what the Portal brings to the table. Setting it up was easy. I already had Remote Play set up on my PS5 because I use the phone app from time to time. But it was connected and working within seconds. So of course the first thing I wanted to do was test it on the kind of game that's probably least suited for, a first-person shooter like Call of Duty. Now I only fired up a bot match because I'm not about to sully my name with this thing online. You can see the actual amount of lag right here, and it's barely noticeable, but it is there. But what I really noticed is that the aiming felt floaty, a little over-aiming my target and then immediately overcorrecting. You can see here that even with the bots on regular difficulty, I just couldn't really get kill streaks going. By comparison, when I turned on my normal control and started playing the match on the TV, it looked more like this. So is it playable? Yeah, but I would probably stick to bot matches or campaign mode. Or if you wanted to trick the engagement-based matchmaking in online multiplayer. What's engagement optimized matchmaking, you say? you might want to check out my video on that. And while I'm shilling for myself, let me just say if you're enjoying this video, hit those like and subscribe buttons before I do something to ruin it. I do game reviews and commentary, and I might just be doing some more hardware reviews like this from time to time. Okay, so honestly, Call of Duty wasn't as bad as I was expecting, but still not a great experience. But also, this is not what the Portal was designed for. Next up, I wanted to try it with Final Fantasy VII Remake. This is a third-person action RPG, and I think it's a good test because you do dodge, and timing is important, but it's not like playing a Souls-like. As you can see, Tifa looks great on the 8-inch LCD screen. Fun fact, I tested at least 4 other scenes with Tifa in it, and it looks great every time. I generally suck at dodging and blocking, so it was hard to tell a difference even with a little lag. If I'm being totally honest, I didn't really notice a difference at all, mainly because it didn't require precise aiming. So I would say this one gets a green light from me. I tried some other games like The Ascent, which is an isometric action RPG in some of the most beautiful cyberpunk environments you'll ever see. I actually played the last half of this game on the Portal, including the final boss, so that's another green light. Spider-Man 2 and Ratchet & Clank also played great. I had no issues in limited play. So this is where I need to share my network specs because your Wi-Fi connection is crucial. You can see on this speed test from my phone, I was getting 36 megabits per second download speeds on the Wi-Fi from the couch in the same room, and around 24 megabits per second from a different room in the house. My PS5 is hardwired to my router, and it actually gets close to 400 megabits per second download and around 50 megabits per second up. So it works great in my home on the same Wi-Fi, but what about when I'm away from home? So here's a test I ran just connecting it to the hotspot on my phone. I'm in the passenger seat of my car here in a mall parking lot, and you can see there's a little bit of frame stuttering. I'm sure there's some lag going on, but the game seemed very playable, and it was nice to see that you can play this thing away from home provided you have a solid internet connection. So I went back and played a lot of the same games on the Backbone. I got this thing for Christmas, and I actually planned on doing a review of it before I caved and bought the Portal. So here's a quick rundown of some of the benefits for each of them. The Backbone can play a lot more than just PlayStation Remote Play. It plays mobile games, GeForce Now, even Xbox Cloud games. It's small, it's lightweight, it's definitely more travel friendly, and it's less expensive since it doesn't include a screen. The PlayStation Portal is more comfortable and it has those PlayStation 5 haptics. It's got that giant 8-inch screen, and then another feature that I'm not sure very many people will care about, but it captures gameplay footage onto the PS5, which you can't do using the Remote Play app. And it can be used as a regular PlayStation 5 remote, so if you have a buddy over and you need an extra controller, it can be used that way. But here's the kicker, when you're playing the Portal, you still have a phone. It kind of reminds me of back in the old days when we would use phone modems, and if anyone called, it would kick you off the internet. Because when you're using the PlayStation Remote Play app, if you get a call or a text or anything that takes you away from the app, then you've got to go through the whole connection process to get back to it. At this point, the Portal is passing the tests really well, and I'm starting to get a mouthful of words to eat. But it wasn't all fun and games. There are a few issues. Okay, we've already talked about the lag, and if I slow my video down and look at it frame by frame, you can see that in my living room there's a 1-frame lag, or about 1/24th of a second. I think that's an acceptable level for most games and gamers, but elite players and games with super precise mechanics are gonna notice that. There's just no way around it. I don't think you'd want to play Apex Legends or compete online in Gran Turismo. You also can't do any cloud streaming to the device, since I guess that would double up the lag from the cloud server to the PlayStation and from the PlayStation to the Portal. I don't know if there's a hardware limitation that prevents the cloud streaming from going straight to the Portal, but if it could be added in a future firmware update, that would be fantastic. For all I know, there's a licensing issue that prevents the games from being played on a handheld. Who knows what rules the lawyers come up with, but I hope that's something they can fix. Because the use case for this device would expand dramatically if I could play games from the cloud anywhere I have an internet connection, as opposed to only being able to play games from my PS5. So I really gave this thing a hard time when it first came out because it seemed like such a bare-bones, single-use product. But as it turns out, the one thing it does is something I really enjoy. I use this chunky boy just about every day, and it doesn't even seem as silly or as goofy as it used to. I actually love the fact that it's basically a PS5 controller with a screen in the middle. So is it worth the price? It's about $200 here in the US if you buy it new, and I don't know, I have a hard time saying it's worth every penny. You could probably get 3 new games for the price of this thing. So if you can afford it without canceling Netflix or something like that, then yeah, it might be worth it for you. But if you're on a budget, then I would say wait for the price to drop or find it used, or who knows, maybe they'll add some features to it like cloud streaming, which will actually add enough value to make it worth the money. Oh, who are we kidding? This is Sony. All they did with the Vita was take features away, so I'm not really holding my breath. But this is the closest thing to a handheld PS5, and if you share your TV with kids or significant others and you have a good Wi-Fi router, then this is a great product. I give it a very surprised thumbs up. I always appreciate those likes and subscribes, and if you've played a Portal, or even if you haven't, I'd love to hear your thoughts. And always, thanks for watching.